set it so that I share my screen?
Yes, of course. Let me just do that again.
Thank you.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay, I just need to remind myself. There it is. I can see it now. Thank you. Just bear with me one moment. How do I do that? Okay. Give me a sec. I've got two screens. I think that's what the problem is. If I get that up there. Sorry, guys. Give me one sec.
Don't worry. All good.
It's because I usually use Google Meet as well, which is another reason why I'm not.
Yeah, don't worry. We flip between the two as well for either like one-on-one meetings or we have the big Zoom calls. So yeah, we feel you.
Cool. Right, I'll just make these full screen and then hopefully you can see them. Has it done it?
Yeah, I can see it.
And is it in full view? For some reason it's not doing it for me.
No,
It
it's not.
slides well enough.
You can probably try zooming out if that helps.
Yeah, sorry about this, guys.
No problem.
That zoomed in enough.
Yeah, I think yeah, that one's better. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. Sorry, guys. I'll just leave it at that. I think it's because I'd shared my screen before I even made it full screen. But there we go. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me here today as your guest speaker as part of Graphic Design Week. It's really cool to be here today, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about my career, how I got into the design industry, where I am now, and sort of tips for running a successful freelance business that I've learned along the way. Hopefully, even for those that maybe freelancing isn't something that you're potentially looking at, there will still be some value in the tips that I share. But first of all, just to give you a little introduction to who I am and what I do. So I am a graphic designer. I've been a designer for 14 years now and freelance for the past 4. And I help small businesses with big hearts spread a little bit of joy and positivity into the world by using my skills to shine a light on the good that they do. I have worked with big brands, but it's really those small businesses who really care, who need the support, where I feel that I can make the most difference. So that's why I've chosen to work with those small businesses. But how did I get to here? So when I was a teenager, I really felt like my career would look like that path on the left. But as I'm sure we can all agree, life is never linear. I did always want to be a graphic designer, but it's been more like that wibbly wobbly line on the right with various twists and turns. But I got here in the end. But yeah, I'll just go a little bit into why it's been so wibbly wobbly. For the first reason is that despite wanting to be a graphic designer at university, I didn't actually study design. I studied American studies. Part of that was at the time, I think there was little value placed on creative subjects, certainly in my school, but also the careers advisor that I had. Can't say that she was very good at her job, but I was basically told that it was an overly competitive industry and that most people ended up teaching. And did I want to teach? I didn't want to teach. I was advised to go for a humanity, and the one that appealed to me was American studies. I got to have a year in California, which is why I've got that image there of me and my friends after a camping trip in Big Sur. But when I graduated, I didn't really know where to go from there. I didn't really want to apply for any graduate schemes. Huge introvert, didn't want to go through the process of assessment centres and that sort of thing. So I started temping in the HR department for the co-op. And that was never meant to be permanent, but it ended up being 4 years. I don't have regrets because I met my husband through working there, and we now have 2 beautiful children. So, you know, all these things, they happen for a reason. But as a creative, without a creative outlet, I wasn't happy, and I knew that I needed to do something about it. So that's why I started applying for marketing jobs. And I did that still with the co-op, just applying for internal roles as they came up. And third time lucky, I eventually got an entry-level job in marketing, in the group marketing department. And whilst I was finally in a creative role, it was predominantly administrative, but I was given opportunities to support on marketing campaigns like Plan B, working with the social goals department. And the reason why I've included that packet of wildflower seeds there is because this was the first time that I really appreciated how marketing and design could be used for good, which sort of, you know, links back to who I work with now. But I was still craving something more. I think I always had this niggle that whilst I was finally being creative, I felt like I'd missed the boat with design. But whilst I was briefing creative agencies, I wanted to be the person on the other end of that brief, answering the brief. So I still, you know, I was much happier than when I was in HR, but I knew I still wasn't where I needed to be. But I became aware of a place called Shillington College, which was a 1-year course, which you could study part-time, 2 evenings a week. It taught you how to, you know, all the software that you need to be a designer in the Adobe Creative Suite, so Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. But it taught them within the context of design theory, typography, color theory, everything that just doing a standard Photoshop course didn't really do. And I was just really lucky that when a job came up via a restructure, this was the first time I was made redundant at the co-op and managed to cling on. They offered me a digital marketing role where I was working on the membership website, and they saw the value in sending me on this course at Shillington College, because whilst it was quite a bit of money, it was a lot cheaper than continuing to pay the design agencies to do to continue to create all these sort of junior design tasks that could be brought in-house if they upskilled me to go and do that course. So I was really lucky that that's what happened. And yeah, that was really my first step towards being a graphic designer, and finally, whilst missing the boat the first time, getting back on it. They created a split digital marketing design role for me, because I was saving the money by bringing those tasks in-house. And unfortunately, whilst I loved it, redundancy came up again. And this is the time that I made my way fully into a graphic design role. I applied for an internship at an agency called The Chase. I spent 4 weeks with them, and then yeah, finally got my foot in the door as a junior designer in-house at laterooms.com. And pretty much we're nearly there. The rest is history. I stayed there for about 8 years, worked my way up, and it was when I was on maternity leave with my son, my youngest child, in 2019 that I got the call that said the company was going into administration. So then it was like, oh, what do I do now? Because my daughter was starting school. I had my son, who was still a baby, and I didn't see how I could apply for another senior designer role and get that on a part-time basis. So that's when I turned to freelancing and made that transition. It allowed me to fit work around my family, but also, as hard as I've work on projects that really give me that creative fulfillment that whilst I love late rooms, I wasn't really getting, because I've always loved brand design. And when you work for yourself, you get to choose what you get to do. So that's how I got to where I am now. And then I've gone through that quite quickly, just because I wanted to have a bit more time to talk about sort of the tips and advice that I would pass on that will hopefully be helpful to you guys moving forward. So the first thing is to begin before you are ready. Now, what I mean by that is, I'm not saying just hand in a notice or start without having practical things like savings in place. I would always recommend having a minimum of about 3 months if possible, just so you have that security to move forward. But by begin before you're ready, I mean, it doesn't need to be perfect. You don't have to have a logo. You don't have to have a website. You just need to start and put yourself out there. You can get a logo in Canva. You can do a DIY landing page, but really you just need somewhere to be visible and talk about what you do and get out there and start meeting people. If we wait for things to be perfect, but it can just stop us from doing things sooner. And as a brand designer, this next one about building your brand, I think that this is quite an important one, because your brand is essential for the success of your freelance business. It's looking at those brand foundations. Although you don't have to do it at the very beginning, because I just said start before you're ready. The sooner you can do it, the better, really. Identify what your strengths are, what sets you apart. Think about who your ideal audience, your ideal customer will be, and look at things like your core values, and start with why. Not how and what you do, but why you do what you do, because all of these things together will build that brand story that you can use in your messaging to attract that ideal customer to you. It builds that brand awareness so that you're front of mind when people need what you do. And the other thing is that it acts as a compass for you as well, understanding those things. So, like, particularly with your values, when work comes in, you know whether you want to say yes to it and whether you want to say no to it. You can't say yes to everything, because when you work for yourself, there's only so much capacity. So I think starting this process early on is quite important. Me personally, I didn't do it for the first 18 months of my business, but I found that I was working with brands that didn't really align with some of my values, for example, sustainability, and that was making me quite unhappy in what I was doing. So it was only really when I went through this process that it helped me move forward. Sorry. And then the image there is of a book called Brand Yourself by Lucy Werner and Adrienne Chatelet. And it's just got lots of little exercises in there that helps you go through that process of defining all those things, brand foundations, so that you can really hone that message and attract those ideal clients. And then another big tip is about visibility. So it's really easy this is one I struggle with, to be honest, to keep putting yourself out there, especially when you've got client work and you're busy with that. so many hats you have to wear as a freelancer, but if you can keep showing up, even if it's just on one channel, so for me it's Instagram, you don't have to show up daily, but as long as you show up consistently and offer your advice, your tips, share that value to your customers, they can keep you front of mind when they need to, you know, if they need a website, then they're going to think of you because you're one of the people that are showing up, and people won't know you exist unless you put yourself out there. You know, sometimes I find that I get so bogged down with work that I realize I've not really put anything out on my socials for a while, and the inquiries start to drop off a little bit. So it is really important, no matter how busy you are, to keep that going. And if you don't like social media, you know, there's other things you can do. You can be a guest speaker on podcasts, you could write a blog, have a newsletter, just something that's putting you and your business out there on a regular basis. One of those ways is also networking. Now, for me, networking, the type of networking that I thought of when I first went freelance was men in suits and handing out business cards and it all feeling a bit icky and salesy. But it doesn't have to be like that. I go to something called Fresh Walks, which is networking. And it's really just building connections with people, having those chats, saying who you are, what you do, but not going with that sales mindset, because that just turns people off. But as long as you're meeting people and yeah, being real, showing who you are, that just expands your network, and again puts you front of mind when opportunities come up for what you do. I mentioned their community as well, which obviously has networking opportunities, but that picture on this slide is from my Christmas do, December just gone. When I went freelance, I never thought that I would have colleagues or workmates. Really, I thought it would feel quite lonely, and it was one of the things that I was worried about. But actually, there's so many freelancer communities out there that you can join, and there's lots of them, so you can find the one that's right for you. This one is called Being Freelance, run by a guy called Steve Folland, who's actually a video editor by day. But it's just a really great way to, when you join these places, to speak to people who are in the same boat as you, to ask for advice, like, do I need this clause in my contract, whatever it is. People who know that it can be hard, but yeah, who are there to sort of like support you and cheer you on. So yeah, that was my Christmas do. But for Being Freelance specifically, we also get online and play Mario Kart. We do virtual co-working every Friday. Right now they're doing a bake along, baking some brownies together in the lunchtime. So there's lots of fun things when you find places like this. And by getting to establish yourself in these communities, again, you're widening that network, and you know, other freelancers just want to support you. So they're a great thing to join. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So it's quite easy, especially if you start working in that retainer model or contract model, that it's quite easy to do, that you rely on this maybe one client, one source of income. But actually, if that gets taken away without much notice, you can be in quite a sticky place. So if you can maybe throw in things like digital products as well, create templates, courses, vary your offerings. So for me, I have brand identity packages, web design packages, but then I also offer a design day, which is a done in a day service, which is a cheaper way to work with me, and it just offers that that choice so that people in different places of their business, people with less money, people with more, they can choose how to work with you in a different way. So yeah, that was one thing that I think is quite important. And then just having a passion project. This is mine. It's called You Are the Sea. And I launched it last year in May, and I only get to spend 1 day a week on it. But I find that by having that time, that's not for client work, it's just for me. And yeah, exploring designs for the t-shirts that I sell. I can acquire new skills, so I can practice my illustration skills, which I don't always get to do on client projects. It brings me joy because I'm a surfer. I don't get to surf as much as I did before I had kids, but and I live in Manchester as well, so you know I don't get to go to the sea very often, but it keeps that connection for me. And yeah, I just think having those projects where you can explore creativity for creativity's sake is a great way to sort of stay productive when you are working on your client projects. And just going back to the You Are the Sea, because I don't think I've said it yet, £2 from every sale goes to Surfers Against Sewage. So I want to raise awareness of the need to protect our oceans, and yeah, have fun while I'm doing that. So that's why I think passion projects are a cool thing to do. And then work-life well-being. It's really hard as a freelancer, I think, to prioritize your well-being when you're so bogged down with all the things that you need to do. But it's one of the most important things that you need to do. Establishing those boundaries, managing your time effectively, and taking regular breaks is just the best thing that you can do for yourself. Because I've put there a quote, I walked myself into my best thoughts. Well, I often find that if I go for a walk, that's when my best ideas come to me. And even just changing environment, it doesn't have to be a walk, but any kind of break that you can make is gonna be good for you up here. And yeah, not just with mental health, but those ideas and that creativity. It can be easier said than done. Like last year, I was over capacity really and working crazy hours, and I would feel guilty to just go out on my lunch break for half an hour. But I found that those days where I stayed chained to my desk, I actually wasn't very productive. I know that I am more productive when I take those breaks. So prioritizing your well-being. I've crossed out balance because as a busy mum of two, I don't always feel that balance is the right word. But well-being is, yeah, that's the one that you want to go for. Don't be like this guy. Have to put a little Harry Potter meme in there. Yeah, don't be the little Voldemort dude at the top. Look after yourself. And then practically as well, whilst all of those things that I've mentioned, they will build your network, build your brand, and in more of a long game will bring clients. There are places that you can look to find that work as well. So I know LinkedIn is a platform for everyone. It's not just freelance, but actually I found that to be probably my best one for finding work. Just use the search tool as well. You can search by post, and then there will be people often reaching out to their network asking for freelancers. Does anyone know a freelancer who does this? And then yeah, you can engage with those posts, leave your website or email, and yeah, stay engaged within that community. The dots, I don't know if you've heard of the dots, but that's quite similar to LinkedIn. It's not, I think LinkedIn now has more of a freelance community than it did before. So when the dots launched, it was to step away from the more traditional feel that LinkedIn had. But I think, yeah, at the moment, LinkedIn seems to have a very strong freelancer community and lots of opportunities. And then you've got Upwork, People Per Hour, Juno. These are sites where jobs are listed and you build a profile and you apply for them via the site. And I think you get paid via the site as well. I personally haven't had success with those sites. But I know people that have. It doesn't always have to be a race to the bottom on price. There are quality clients on these sites who will pay the right price because, they know that they need to invest. You get what you pay for, basically. They know that, and you can find them on there. I have friends who are still working with clients that they found on Upwork 3 years ago that are still their clients today. So I wouldn't rule them out. I'd definitely give them a look. And then yeah, that's it. I will take any questions, but I've just put here where you can find me if you want to connect with me after. My website's leylaalexander.com, youarethec.co.uk, and my Instagram handles for both Leyla Alexander Design and You Are the Sea UK. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then if I don't know how it works for questions, but feel free to put them in the chat or ask me by unmuting. Oh, you've got questions.
Yeah, I think we've got Leyla. Yeah, we've got 2 people with their hands raised, actually. Was it Carta first?
Okay, cool.
Hi. So I have a question about would you, in the beginning stages of your branding, would you recommend copywriting your logo? Is that is it a big thing to do just as a small brand?
I think as a small brand, it's not as important, but I would look at things like sort of future proofing for trademarking. So say like you didn't go with your name, for example, you chose like a different brand name. I would screen that name in the first instance, to just see if anyone else is using it for those reasons. And then, yeah, I haven't copyrighted my logo or trademarked it. But for You Are the Sea, my product business, I am looking at trademarking that just to protect it. I think it depends on the type of business that you are and the services that you offer, really.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And then you've got a question, Raj.
I was gonna say, when did you sorry, how did you like come up with your pricing for your services when you started your freelance and business? I mean, what factors did you take in, and how did you realize, okay, that's like what I'll charge now, and then increase it at X amount of time?
So there are surveys out there. I think there's one that's called Major Players, where you can see sort of for benchmarking what other freelancers are charging. And it's broken down by role as well. And I definitely think Major Players does it for a variety of roles. But yeah, I went there and I looked at what other freelancer designers were charging based on the level of experience as well, because obviously there's a bit of a range. I was working as a senior designer, so I went with a senior designer day rate. Pricing is hard. I think it's easy to set your day rate and your hourly rate, but what can be difficult is especially when you work on a project basis and you're quoting up front, is allowing enough time and getting the scope of it right. And I've just learned along the way. There've been projects where I have got it right, and I felt like, you know, yes, I'm not working for free. But then there's been other times where I've got it wrong. And because I've quoted it up front, I can't then go and add on at the end. So a little bit has been just trial and error. But with each project you do, you get more of a sense of how long something will take you. But yeah, I always try and go off what my day rate is and how long I think something will take. For smaller jobs where I'm working by the hour, there are time trackers you can use, like Toggle, where you can actually see how long you've spent on something, so you're charging accordingly. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And did you have a question for Ria?
Yeah, so just to take you back to more of the beginning side before you kind of got into the freelance bit, I'm just wondering about the kind of drawbacks or the positives you found in the administrative side of overlooking campaigns, and then when you were given more of a freedom to be more in the campaigns, what kind of positives and negatives were there, and kind of like the middle ground between?
Sure. So yeah, when I first made that move, it was in the interview really that I just sort of said, I know this is an administrative role, but I'm keen to get experience in marketing and running these campaigns. I think you just need to tell the people that you're working with where you want to have those development opportunities, and most of the time people want to support you and they want to give you that development. So there were times when doing some of those admin tasks, yeah, I was bored, but I was always you do the job well and then just keep asking for those opportunities. When you're working on them, just do your best, and then people will see that you've got the capability, and then each time you get something that's maybe a little bit more challenging, a little bit something else that's going to push you out of your comfort zone a little bit. That's just how it happened for me. Slowly it built up, and yeah, I think people could see that I was capable, and with each project I got more responsibility.
Thank you.
I'm just going to read the question from Bianca as well before I go to Nicola. Bianca's asking, where do you find your clients if you don't personally use those freelance sites?
So for me, in the first instance, it was personal network. So I guess in one way I was lucky that when I worked at Late Rooms, all those people that I worked with went to different companies because the business didn't, it exists again now, annoyingly, but yeah, we all went. And I had people that had gone, yeah, my first client was a retainer client. My old director of marketing, she moved to work with a company called Appreciate. They were looking for design support, and yeah, I ended up getting a retainer with them 2 days a week in the first instance. And I know part of that is luck, but I would, recommend just telling your friends. Like, I don't do it enough. Like, say, this is what I do. I'm still a freelance designer. If you know of anyone who is looking for a designer, please think of me. Some clients did come in that way, done logos for like my friends' husbands and things like that. So personal network, LinkedIn in those early days as well. But mainly for me, I really enjoy going out to those networking events, meeting people, and it has been from building my network that most of my work now is word of mouth. So yeah, it's predominantly word of mouth for me, but it's by doing all those sort of things that I've talked about, and not relying on one strategy, just sort of doing a bit of everything. That's what it's still hard, because I'm coming now to the end of a pipeline of work where I'm like, I know I need to be working a bit harder on my marketing, getting out some more freelancing, networking events. Not knowing when that work is going to come in is one of the challenges of freelancing, but it does come, and accepting that there will be quieter periods is just part of it.
Thank you. We have a question from Nicola.
Hi, Leyla.
Hi.
Hi, this has been really useful. So I was going to ask, if you just started out, what do you think's a good starting hourly rate to put out there?
For what role specifically?
If it's, say, social content management or...
Okay. Yeah, well, I would say as a minimum 30. I wouldn't go lower than £30 per hour, probably. I don't know much specifically about that sector and that role, because obviously I'm coming at it from a design point of view. But I think even and I don't know how much experience you have either, but I would say generally freelance hourly rates, they tend to start from £30 upwards to like 60. Some people will charge even more than that, and some people will charge less than that, but I wouldn't go lower. There are calculators that you can use as well. I'll try and think of one, and maybe I can email it to the team at Basecamp after. But you basically put in how much you want to earn, the availability, your capacity for the year, how many weeks you want to take off, and it will come up with an hourly rate for you. Like, this is what I need to earn. And that can be a good tool to start with as well, just to get an idea of, those numbers that you need to be hitting.
Yeah, that's useful. Thank you.
Okay.
Did you have another question, Carta?
Yeah, I do. So my question is, so I've never done this. My business idea would be the first time I would be doing it, and I don't want to charge the full rate, like, for the first year. So would you recommend charging what you initially want to charge, or just doing that first year at a cheaper price and then changing it to the initial price that you want to do it? Or does that look kind of dodgy to customers, if that makes sense?
No, I don't think so. And I do see where you're coming from, and the value in doing that. I think as long as you can bring in, you're charging enough that you can pay what you need to pay, you're covering yourself. Yeah, I've done it before, where despite my background as a digital designer, building landing pages, etc., when I first went freelance, I wanted a break from web design, so I didn't do it for like the first 18 months. And then when I got my first web design client, I didn't have much of a portfolio of freelance client websites that I'd built. They would have been my first one. And so for that reason, I did charge a lot less than what I charge now, because they were like my trial client for being my first web client. And that felt comfortable to me, because I didn't want to charge what other designers were charging who had that portfolio that I didn't have. But don't undersell yourself is the only thing that I would say. Make sure you're charging enough for yourself. And people increase their prices all the time. A lot of people do it every 6 months. Some people do it annually. That's the beauty of being your own boss. You can do it when you want, and just communicate with your clients. If you run a business where you've got repeat clients, people that keep coming back to you, don't give them the shock of an invoice where it's or a quote where it's just suddenly gone up, but tell them, you know, give a few months notice, I'll be raising my rates at this time, this is what they'll be, and you know, 9 times out of 10 they'll continue to work with you.
Perfect. So a few more questions in the chats here. What are some lessons you've gained through experience as a freelancer that you wish you had known when you first started out?
I wish that I had so this is less of a learning since going freelance. One of them is just that I wish that I'd known earlier that I wouldn't be lonely, because I think I would have gone freelance a lot sooner. Is one of them. Is
How do you manage that then?
the loneliness.
Yeah.
I just get out and meet people. So I'm quite happy when I'm in my office, getting on with client work. But I mentioned virtual co-working, which sounds a bit mad. You know, you're all on the call on mute and you're working on your own stuff, but then you'll break after half an hour and then have a chat. So it's like it can feel quite productive to see other people working. But then yeah, that sort of connection with people throughout the day, even if it's virtual, it does really help. And yeah, I'll meet clients. If I've got local clients, I'll meet them for a coffee. Other freelancers, I'm friends with a lot of freelance designers, just because it's great to have that outlet to just, you know, projects and your clients and how it's going or not going. And yeah, I feel like I'm not lonely at all.
Yeah. Cool. There's another question as well from Caitlin. How do you tackle freelancing and managing if clients don't pay? When should you stop working when payment is being withheld?
Well, definitely have a contract before you start working with a client, get them to sign your contract. So you've at least got that in place to go back to. I changed my the way that I invoice so that I get 50% upfront. I won't do any work until or book anyone into my calendar until I've got that 50%. And then the remaining 50% is payable upon completion. And I found that that has really helped stop that dragging out of people, late paying clients. I've been fortunate that I haven't had a situation where I've not been paid at all. I've had it where it's gone a few months and I just keep chasing with email. But yeah, I know people who have had to threaten legal action, and that's been the only thing that's got them paid. But I can't really comment on it from not having been paid, because I've touched wood, it's not happened to me yet, but I'm sure it will at some point. But yeah, the invoicing for a deposit upfront, I know people that ask for 75% upfront, but yeah, for me 50% feels more comfortable.
And then we've got a question from Julia. How do you market yourself and consider competitors now that we have Fiverr and Dribble offering services for very low prices?
Yeah, I don't tend to think about Fiverr and Dribble so much. It's annoying because those sites, what they do is they're devaluing the industry to a point, aren't they? And it's a race to the bottom. But those clients that are on those sites, they just want to work with the cheapest option, don't they? And care less about the quality. But the thing is, you pay for what you get. And I think the way that I market myself in terms of answering that question is I show my work. I feel like, you know, I'm a designer with 14 years experience. I've got a digital marketing background. So I know what it takes to captivate people. I share my testimonials. You need a strong portfolio. showing the variety of work that you do. You want it to appeal to your ideal customer, which is why I say to look at those things that are important to you for your brand and your business. Because when you understand them, you can hone your messaging to talk to the right people. And yeah, just keep sharing those testimonials, share your work, and give tips to your audience so that you're offering value and you're positioning yourself as an expert in your field, and the right people will come to you. You don't want the people that are on Fiverr and Dribble. You don't want them to be your clients.
Right, yeah. And I've got a couple more questions. Are there any traps freelancing or things to watch out for? And the other question is, how does tax work for self-employed?
Okay, I'll go with which one was it first? Any traps to watch out for? So one thing I've struggled with, and only recently really, is I've been getting a bottleneck of work. Don't say yes to too many things. Really get to know your capacity of, because if you take on too much, then it just, yeah, you approach burnout and it all becomes a little bit unmanageable. So I have tried to squeeze things in for clients because I've not wanted to say no, but then I've ended up in a position where I'm overworking and it's affecting my mental health. Sometimes clients will mess you around and it's frustrating, but take the learnings from each of those situations and try and get something in your contract that's going to protect you. Or one thing that I'm going to do is change my process for my web design clients, because I might book them into my diary and everything is going swimmingly, but then they just go AWOL for a little bit and I'm not getting that feedback or information that I need. It's a collaborative process to move forward. And that's when I'm ending up with that bottleneck, especially when multiple clients are doing it. So it's just about reviewing processes, making sure that your contract protects you, and things like that, I think. And then the tax question, where was that? Sorry. How does tax work for self-employed? So you have to register with HMRC. I'm a sole trader, because that's what works for me and my business, but there's a decision in the first instance whether to be sole trader or limited company. But yeah, starting out, I think I recommend sole trader. And then once you're registered with them, you get a unique taxpayer reference or a code that's unique to you, and you just need to I recommend having a business bank account so that you can keep the transactions separate from your business and your personal life. And I run all of that through an accounting software. So for me, I use QuickBooks Self-Employed. Other people have used Free Agent. I think there's Xero. It's different ones. And you can just, you'll go through each transaction that comes up in your QuickBooks, which is linked to your business account. And go through all that. You do your tax return by the 31st of January every year. And then one thing to watch out for actually is when you earn enough to pay tax, I think the threshold is around 12,500. It's something like that. You have to pay your tax for that tax year in January, but then you also have to do something which is called payment on account. So on top of that payment, you have to pay a part payment for the next year's tax. And then there's another payment in July. I think it's by the 31st of July, and you do another payment on account. The theory being that by the time the tax return deadline comes around again, you've paid your tax. But obviously there's variables where you don't always earn the same as the year before, so that can change, but it is meant to help you save for your tax. But yeah, sometimes it can catch you out.
Right. I think Carta has another question.
In terms of writing contracts, can it be like a simple Word document that you do for yourself, or does it have to go through like a solicitor or like some sort of legal body of, yeah, how does that work?
So there are templates out there. There's one called, I think it's a Killer Contract, which is not, I don't think it's free. I think but it's only like $10 or something. That is written in layman's terms. It's not in legal speak, so it's easy to understand and easy to edit as well for that reason. I did pay for a solicitor to do my contract, but because I want to add a few different clauses in there and tweak it now that my process has changed slightly, I am actually going to have it reviewed. So I would rather it was just written in plain old English so that I understand it, my clients understand it. But yeah, the templates, I think, as long as you're using a contract, they're fine. And there's lots of different ones where you can buy them for fairly cheap.
Yeah, I didn't see that we actually have some more questions in the chat from Eleni with is that the one? Right, with the rise of automation and AI in various industries, how do you see the job security of graphic designers evolving in the coming years? Do you recommend graphic designers to diversify their skill sets beyond traditional design, such as learning coding, motion graphics, or staying in the marketing lane?
Do you know, with AI, I don't, this might be short-sighted of me, but I don't see it taking on jobs. It's powerful. I think what actually we need to do as designers is use it in a way that works for us. Maybe it speeds up our processes. But I don't think it can take away from the creative thinking that we come up with as individuals. I mean, you can be in a room full of designers and we're all going to come up with our own ideas. And you just can't, I just don't see how you can replicate that with AI. It is powerful, it can do amazing things, but I don't think it's going to take our jobs. But yeah, we probably do need to learn how to work with it. And in terms of diversifying your skill sets, well, I do have quite a diverse skill set when it comes to design. I do a bit of animation. I can yeah, I've done web design and I do brand identity. That's because I love the variety. But there are people that have niched, and I think it's up to you. Definitely keep up to date with emerging trends in your industry and whichever design discipline you're interested in. Tools are changing all the time, keep up to date with those. But I think that's more of a personal one. When you do look at the job ads that are out there, they are saying we want someone who can do this. I think a lot of people are looking for people with a diverse skill set. As a freelancer, though, I don't think it really is up to you, because I know people who only do web design. I know people who only do brand identity, and they have successful businesses.
Cool. Liam has a question as well. He said he's a junior graphic designer struggling to find clients and also trying to find a permanent job. So he's moving more into the marketing side of things. How did you find the changeover?
From when I went marketing to design, I think it was or do you mean the change over from employed to freelance?
Yeah, as in, was it a big change for you? And like, was it a long process to start getting your clients?
Yeah, so I think with me, I was lucky at the beginning, because I did get that retainer client quite early on, and they were my bread and butter for the first 18 months. And then when I made that decision to, well, not do retainer clients anymore, to work on a more project basis, and I sort of made a move to work more in line with my values. So I stopped working with those bigger clients who tend to have the bigger budgets. I did have a very quiet period where I lost my financial buffer as well. So it was quite a challenging time. But that was when the pressure was there to just get out there. The networking has been key for me, really. And yeah, it can be hard, and but I just think that something will always turn up. And if it doesn't, the last year for freelancers has been particularly hard. I know I have had people that have gone back into employed roles for that's like financial security. But I only know a few people that have had to do that. Most people, they're still going, yes, we've got those challenging times, but that's why that having that financial buffer, if you can build it, is gonna keep you secure when it goes quiet. What did I do in that time when it was challenging for me? I introduced a new offer. That was when I introduced my VIP design day. And I sort of was willing to do any kind of design work at that time. I supported other freelancers as well. I reached out to those to see if, for those people that were managing at that time, if they had anything that I could support them with, even if it meant for a lower hourly rate, so they could still shave a bit off the top. I did that. I was willing to do anything just to get me back on my feet. And then once I was, I've thankfully only had that scary experience that time. But yeah, all those sort of things that I've talked about, joining communities, they're all the things that have helped me.
Thank you. Martin is asking as well about if there are any freelance contract templates that you could share, perhaps, and if they would cover US and EU-based clients.
US and EU business. Yes, I do. Weirdly, I had a call with someone yesterday she's actually produced a set of legal templates for a range of businesses, and I think she does have one that covers US and EU. So I can email over her contact details. The only other one that I know of is, as I say, is that killer contract, and it might not be relevant. I'm not sure. But I would just say go on Google, have a look, see what there is. But yeah, this she's called Egby Manton. She's I think her firm is called Manton Consultancy. She's just about to launch these legal templates, so I can always pass on her contact details. And yeah.
Thank you very much. There's another question as well from Jenna. How do you handle challenging situations with clients who may have differing opinions or preferences regarding the content you're producing?
How do I handle that? Grit my teeth. No, just have a conversation. I will. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to think of a client that I've had that's maybe like that. But generally, I've been quite lucky. I think when I've had those situations, it's been more when I've been employed. But it's just, yeah, have the conversation, explain the reasons for your design choices, because you're the expert. At the end of the day, if they're not going to listen to you, sometimes you just have to let it go. I think in those, sometimes I have had projects where I just think, fine, as long as you do your best to present your expertise and why something's going to be the right choice for them, if they're still not going to go for it, you've just got to let it go and move on.
All right, thanks for that. I have a question actually. How do you manage your time? I mean, doing everything, because I know you're a mom of two, and then you're freelancing, and you also do some charity work. So do you have any tips with regards to time management? How is your day-to-day like, or yeah.
Sure. So I try and visually in my calendar time block things. So I put things like going for a walk in there, because if it's not in there, I won't do it. On Mondays and Fridays, I have quite a short day. So I'll start work at 8:30 and then I have to stop at 2:45 and go and pick the kids up. If I've not quite finished with what I needed to do, I will do a little bit more whilst they're watching telly or something. But generally I try not to, so that I'm present for them. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have a much longer day. And then Wednesday's another short one. That time blocking is key for me. Friday, I try and keep the boundary that day is for You Are the Sea. Otherwise, I don't get that time on my passion project. And then when things are like, when it's really busy, I will work a Tuesday evening. I might work a Sunday morning, when I'm not really going to be missed by the family. Sometimes that's just part of freelancing. I know people who won't. The beauty of being freelancer is that you don't have to work 9 to 5. You can work whenever you want. So that's why I say it's work-life well-being, not work-life balance. You don't work traditional hours necessarily. Mine are closer to traditional hours because it fits around my family that way. They're at school, so that's my time to work. But yeah, sometimes you've just got to fit in the pockets that are available. But yeah, I have a Monday morning that I do my admin. And then throughout the week, I'll try and set an hour where I'll do my socials and get some marketing content out there as well. But it is hard. It is a juggle for sure. That's probably the hardest thing about freelancing, is all the hats you have to wear. But yeah.
Right. Anyone else in the group who has any questions? No, I think that's all the time we have for this anyway. Thank you again, Leyla, for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having
And
me.
your presentation as well. If anybody wants to connect with you after this, where would be the best, what's the best way to do that?
So if you're on Instagram, I'm at Leyla Alexander Design, or You Are the Sea UK. I'm mostly on the design business one, just because predominantly that's where the most of my time is spent doing that. And yeah, oh, you're welcome. Thank you. And then my website, so leylaalexander.com and youarethesea.co.uk.
Right. Thank you, Leyla. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Leyla. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, Leyla. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks as well to Tor and to Joe for organizing the session this afternoon.
You're very welcome. Thanks, guys.
Right. I think we're gonna have a break for now and then be back at 3:30, if that's okay. So my mentor group would stay on this call and then the rest would go back to your Zoom, to your mentor groups. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks so much.
See you
Thanks,
later.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.